is so hot today. Oh my God, Elena, it's summertime.
It's summertime.
It's summertime.
It's May.
Let's close everything. Let's stop working. Let's just go to the beach.
Okay.
Huh? I like that.
I like that. I don't know if everybody else will like that.
With a mojito, you know. Or
You can write very good code with mojito.
I definitely.
Already a kind of alcohol.
Once you have enough mojitos, you write your best code, and then if you have one more, then it becomes worse.
So you have to find the balancing point, basically.
Exactly.
Enough
exactly.
alcohol to be creative,
Yes.
but not enough to be...
I think next week we should experiment with how many mojitos are necessary to write the best code.
Oh my God. This is not going to be good.
We're going to do a company offsite on the beach. Yes.
Next week we will be in Limassol, by the way. So it's the perfect, you know...
I'm going to be in Limassol next week.
Yeah, of course.
I think half of the island will be in Limassol at the
Yes.
Reflect Festival.
Yes, we are recording this. It's the 9th of May. It will come something around in the middle of May. Basically, just to put a little bit of context on this episode, May in Cyprus is Pride Month. Mm-hmm. So today we are having a story that is relevant with the theme of the month. Mm-hmm. So yes.
Very
but
good.
But next week is Reflect Festival. And you have a workshop.
I have a workshop. Sadly, we're recording this now. So you guys are going to hear this after the workshop. So I cannot invite you. But hey ho.
Maybe it will be recorded now.
The workshop?
Yes. No, probably no.
No, maybe I can bring my phone and record it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for the story?
I'm very ready.
Okay, let's go. So, the Advanced Computer Systems Project, codenamed Project Y, was one of IBM's two major supercomputing initiatives in the late 1960s.
Okay, well, in 1960s. And with IBM.
Yes. There is only IBM in the 1960s.
I feel like we talked again about IBM at some point.
Yes, because if you go far enough in the past, it's only IBM.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's IBM. It was IBM and the Seven Dwarfs. That was the name. So it was IBM, the big company, and 7 other companies. And they were known as IBM and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, seven dwarfs were like the small agencies.
Yes, the smaller companies.
Cute. So IBM was the Snow White?
Maybe the Evil Queen? I don't know.
I will imagine it. I will imagine IBM as the Snow White. I like that.
Okay. Aiming far beyond the capabilities of the earlier IBM System 360, ACS set bold performance targets. Its ACS1 processor and instruction set introduced forward-looking innovation like multiple condition codes and aggressive out-of-order execution that will only become standard in mainstream computer 2 to 3 decades later.
Okay.
Yet, as the years went by, the project was forgotten by everyone, including IBM. Mm-hmm. So they had this project. It was very innovative. They invented technology, but it never went... It was never a commercial product. Mm-hmm. They didn't sell this computer. So it was forgotten by history. Mm-hmm. And records were scarce, and even IBM didn't seem to have information on the project. Then in late 1988, researcher Mark Smotherman began investigating the forgotten history of the groundbreaking IBM supercomputer. And he was struggling to find information, and he posted online for help.
Okay.
Saying, if anybody knows anything about the project, please send me information.
You mean internally in IBM?
No. He was a researcher.
He was not at IBM.
He was not at IBM. He was a researcher. And he was researching this project like 30 years later. He couldn't find information, so he posted on the internet saying, if you know anything, send me a message.
Wow. What kind of technologies can we be searching to find the people in our time?
This is like early internet, actually. It's before,
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
This is the first, wave of the internet.
Yeah.
So soon he received an unexpected email from Lynn Conway, a highly respected figure in the computer science field. Mm-hmm. Her work fundamentally changed how microchips are designed And she seemed to know not only the project's full history, but she also had extensive documentation on the project.
Okay.
She started sharing the information, the documentation, but there was an issue. She knew too much. But
That's an issue.
Yes, because her name didn't appear in any official records or IBM documents, nor did her professional bio mention any connections to the company.
It's the ghost of the IBM supercomputing technology.
So when Smotherman pressed for details, Lynn was evasive, hinting that she had once worked at IBM under a different name.
Okay, under a different name.
Yes.
Was she a criminal? Dun, dun, dun.
So what he didn't know was that he was touching a very personal part of her life.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted the story of Project Y and her own crucial role in it to be told. But by doing this, she had to reveal a truth that she was keeping hidden for 3 decades.
Wow.
So eventually, after weeks of internal struggle, she finally called Smotherman and quietly revealed the truth. You see, she said, when I was at IBM, I was a boy.
Oh, okay. I was a man, not the boy, right?
She said I was a boy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when she was working at IBM, she was young, so I guess boy would have been more appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is what she said to him.
Okay. And this happened in 1990s?
1998.
Okay,
So
so
30 years later than one.
it wasn't common to have.
It wasn't, I guess, trans people were not that visible
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Yes.
It was not easy to share at that time.
Yeah, she was not sharing. She was keeping this a secret for 30 years, that she was trans.
So when she transitioned, she changed jobs. She left
Yes,
IBM.
I will tell you the full
okay, this is the story.
That
I'm just jumping ahead.
You are jumping ahead.
Tell
but
me all the chapters.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. She was born in Mount Vernon in New York in 1938, and she was assigned male at birth.
Okay.
We will call young Lynn Robert Sanders because that's the pseudonym she chose when she decided to tell her story.
Mm-hmm.
So young Lynn, she was very happy. And during those years, I played a lot with close friends who were almost all girls, she said.
Mm-hmm.
So she's happy, she's a young kid, and she's a boy, but she enjoys the company of other girls, which at the beginning is not an issue. Nobody really pays attention to that.
Yeah.
And then around 4, she experienced a profound sense of gender dysphoria, feeling the desire to wear dresses and feeling that something was terribly wrong when her mother reacted negative to this.
At what age?
4 years old.
4. Just 4 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
So as she wrote, sometime in my 4th year, a terrible nightmare began. I think it may have started in a store where I saw a print dress like my friend Janet had. I took some courage, but I asked my mother if I could have a dress like that. After all, why couldn't I just wear a dress and be a girl? I didn't really understand why I couldn't be a girl, and I didn't understand what my girlfriend had done so that people let them be girls. It was all a mystery to me.
Wow. Okay. Whoa.
So
Yeah, in the mind of a child, it's not clear.
yeah, I mean, when you're 4 years old, you don't think about genitalia or anything. You're like, I want to be a girl. My friends are girls. Why can't I cannot be a girl?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a time where people didn't know anything about this stuff. So it's not like, even today it's very difficult. I mean, there is a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of bias, but in the 30s, 38, she was born in 38, so this was the 40s, imagine.
And being a mother, I can see why this can be very uncomfortable to hear from your own child, or the 40-year-old child. Because as a mother, you want your child to have the best life possible, and a life outside of the ordinary or the life of the majority will be a life that's much harder, right?
Yes. So this early experience marked the beginning of a feeling of being watched and a lack of maternal cuddling, as her parents, who divorced when she was 7, carefully monitored and attempted to suppress any signs of feminine behavior. They cut her hair nearly down to the scalp, very short. And her mother stopped holding her close, barely touching her at all, as she was afraid that her earlier warmth and affection had somehow made her too vulnerable and feminine.
Oh, wow. So her mother stopped
being
affectionate and showing love to her.
So, yeah. I mean, if you are loving to your child, it doesn't turn it feminine.
It
just creates
doesn't.
trauma.
It does. But as a mother, I guess you're thinking, what have I done? What have I done to cause this?
Yeah, because
in the mind of a mother.
Because in the 1940s, this was like a problem.
Yeah.
Back then, they were considering this like a psychological condition, like if you had, I don't know, schizophrenia, or they had it in the same, they put it together with these kind of things back then, unfortunately.
Yeah. So did the mother keep ignoring that, or did she
they were monitoring her, and they were trying anything that she did that would be considered feminine, they would try to stop it.
Oh, wow. But psychology shows that anything that you try to make your child stop doing, they're going to do it even more.
Also, if it's
well done.
Your nature, it's, your nature.
It's inevitable, yeah.
So growing up in the 1950s, Westchester country, sex and gender were firmly outside the bounds of polite discussion, leaving her with no one to talk about her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like she could also talk to her friends or to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
This was a taboo.
I think it still is a taboo.
It still is. But I think now it's more easy to find support.
You can find communities, but it's not easy to speak with your friends. I don't think in the friend circles it's as easy, depending on the friend circles, obviously. And yeah.
So despite the inner turmoil, young Lynn possessed a precocious talent for design and construction. Left to their own devices after school, Lynn and her younger brother Blair share an unquenchable interest in nature and science, using scrap materials to build countless backyard projects. She built a hi-fi system, a photographer launcher, and a radio telescope. So she was doing this engineering project with her brother as a child.
That's cool.
So she had an engineer's mind
since then, yeah.
From the beginning.
That's cool.
That was her way out to build these projects.
Mm-hmm.
But she was growing. She hit puberty, and teenagers are, anyway, when you are a teenager, everything is hard. Imagine also having gender dysphoria. So she started feeling she had this violent conflict with her own body, because her body was, transforming
into a male masculine.
Into a male masculine body, and she hated this thing, her body.
Mm-hmm. Wow. This is what I think trans people describe this as, like being trapped in their own body and not being able to get out of it, right?
And I think as a child, more or less girls or boys are more or less the same, minus, the specific area are more or less the same.
Before
yes, but
puberty.
when you are a teen, your whole body changes and becomes much more female or, male.
Yeah.
And so I think that becomes even harder when you have gender dysphoria. So at 17, she left home to pursue a degree in physics at MIT.
Okay.
And the university life proved to be a breath of fresh air. So she was in a highly competitive environment among 900 other...
As a guy?
Yes, students. And she was in the 2% of her class.
Nice.
And during her early college years, she made an effort to maintain a resemblance of a conventional heterosexual life. And occasionally, she joined mixed gender groups on outings.
Okay.
So she tried to appear, as a man.
Okay. Yeah.
But she was also living a double life. So she attempted cosmetic measures like shaving her legs and shaping her eyebrows. And she actually found a way to buy secretly women's clothing. And she also started using injectable estrogen that she got kind of illegally.
Interesting. Okay, the shaving the legs or shaping the eyebrows, like I know straight guys who are doing that.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Now,
Back
like
then it wasn't so.
30 years ago, not so much.
30, not almost.
20.
This is the 17 years old. This is the early 60s. So it's
damn.
65
Yeah,
years
oh,
old.
damn. Yeah, way.
So yes, but then the clothes but the estrogen, it's kind of
Yeah, she was like, I'm gonna go into a treatment to convert my body
without the supervision of a doctor,
without the advice.
Illegally, it's not safe. I mean, it's not something you should do anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how it works when you transition, but then a doctor is supervising this, a psychologist is supervising them, because once you start taking estrogen, you may experience, different feelings, and, you need help when you do this. But she was doing it all by herself.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, because she didn't have professional support, she started to have thoughts of self-harm, and she started drinking a lot. She became a heavy drinker.
Was that still during university?
Yes, she was at MIT. So basically, she was going to class as a man, and then she had this different persona that she named Lynn at this point.
Yeah.
And she was wearing women's clothes, taking the estrogen. But because she didn't have a support network, it didn't work out very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is Lynn, as, when she was doing this. Here she is.
Oh, wow. What was this after?
When she was at the university.
At the university?
This is before she transitioned. At this point, she's just dressing. This is about clothes and the estrogen, but she's not taking this, with professional support.
Yeah,
But she looks feminine.
She looks feminine, yeah.
So, yeah. So what happened is that Lynn hit rock bottom. She flunked out of MIT, and instead of attending her graduation, she found herself in San Francisco, living on the margins of the gay community. But the problem was that she didn't identify as a gay man attracted to men. She identified as a woman trapped in a man's body that was attracted to men.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't feel gay. She felt that I'm a woman and I'm attracted to men.
Yeah.
So she didn't feel that she belonged
in the gay community. And at that time, the gay community was most popular, not any of the other sub-communities. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the gay community was back then.
Yeah. Smaller,
yes. Yeah. So when her supply of hormones ran out that winter, she returned home and took a job as a repair technician at a hearing aid company. And she went back home, and she was living with her mother, but although they lived in the same house, they were avoiding each other.
Wow.
Eventually, she decided that, I'm going to get out of this. So in 1961, she enrolled at Columbia University, where she excelled again, earning a bachelor's and a master's degree in electrical engineering in just 2 years.
Because she had all the credits maybe from MIT?
Probably, yes. And her excellent work led to a job offer from IBM Research executive Herb Score to join his secret project Y.
Okay.
Which was designing the fastest at the time supercomputer.
Yeah.
The ACS team was an elite and insular team of engineers located in Menlo Park, California. Energized by the pioneering work, Lynn had a flash of insight that solved a critical problem: how to allow the supercomputer to execute multiple instructions at the same time, even when dependent on prior instructions.
Okay.
And her invention became known as dynamic instruction scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a method of constantly analyzing the instruction and ordering them efficiently while minimizing the required transistors, because transistors were expensive back then. Eventually, this was going to incorporate it in high-performance computer and even on the single chips that we had later on in the 1980s. So the same principle existed in like the Pentium chips that we had in the 90s.
Got it.
So she was working at IBM and she was like doing really well. But despite being at the top of her game in her career, her personal life was in turmoil. She was trying to be a man. So she had a casual relationship with a coworker named Sue. And this resulted in a pregnancy.
Hang on.
Sue got pregnant, not Lynn.
Okay.
So she had
But hang on.
She had a heterosexual relationship. She was Robert at the time, okay?
Yeah, he was a guy and he was dating
Sue.
A woman.
Yeah. So Robert is Lynn, had a relationship with Sue and Sue got pregnant.
Okay.
So Lynn fell trap, but also she looked forward to the baby. So they get married.
Oh my God.
Yes. And their daughter Kelly was born in 1964 and followed by Tracy in 1966.
Second baby.
Yes, 2 girls. And for a while, immersing herself in a married life seemed to push the gender conflicts into the background.
And I imagine she didn't discuss this
with
gender conflicts with
her wife. No. And the thing is that when she was on the team, on the engineering team, because they were all brilliant engineers, they were all eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
So her quirks, they were just like, oh, okay, Robert is,
That's how he is.
He's an engineer and he's weird.
Yeah,
This is how they view her.
I mean, that's what we say for most engineers. So,
yes.
Yeah, I get it. Every engineer has their own different weirdness.
Yes, so her weirdness and whatever feminine qualities she had, they were saying, okay, Robert is this is how Robert is.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that she couldn't keep it up with this, It was an act.
Yeah.
So how long can you pretend? Her marriage began breaking up. Her sexual relationship with her wife stopped because obviously she wasn't really interested.
Mm-hmm.
And she fell trapped into her male role. So what happened is that she started seeking danger-seeking activities like riding motorcycles very, very fast and rock climbing.
Okay.
So I have here, that's her with her daughter as a man.
Uh-huh.
So this is Lynn as a man, and that's her on one rock climbing.
Wow.
You want to describe this picture?
I see a very fit man.
Yes. She looks very masculine in this photo.
Yeah, she does. Different than the photo that you showed me before at uni.
Yes.
So it seems like after her time at MIT where she was taking estrogen,
she stopped
it. So the body again developed its natural face and became more muscular. Okay.
And because she was also, doing these physical activities, you become more muscular.
Yeah.
I mean,
stronger.
If you are rock climbing, riding motorcycles, you develop muscle.
Yeah. Okay. How old was Robert at that time?
This is mid-20s.
But he's mid-20s.
In his mid-20s, yes. Eventually, overcome by a feeling of alienation, one day she confessed to Sue, I need to be a woman. And in a moment of despair, she tried to commit suicide with a pistol, which Sue stopped her.
Okay.
So with Sue's consent, Lynn contacted Dr. Harim Benjamin, a prominent endocrinologist who had recently published the transsexual phenomenon, one of the first texts to describe transsexualism and the medical solutions. And under Benjamin's care, Robert, basically, resumed estrogen therapy and planned for sex reassignment surgery.
Wow.
So this time she went to a doctor. So she had a plan. And her plan was for IBM, basically, that she would change her name and transfer to a new lab.
Okay. Yeah.
However, her supervisor, Don Rosenberg, believed IBM's conservative culture could not accommodate her proposal. And basically, IBM management feared disruption and decided to quickly move her out of the company, firing her in 1968.
Under what excuse?
That what she was doing was not ethical.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
They called it unethical, even if it doesn't affect them.
It doesn't affect them at all, no.
Wow.
And she was in an elite team doing pioneering work. She was an inventor. And because she decided I'm going to transition, they decided to fire her. Lynn believes that the decision came from Thomas Watson Jr., the CEO of the company, himself. So it was the CEO decision.
So he was very conservative.
Oh, of course. So she was just getting ready to have the surgery and she lost her job. So she had money issues.
Oh my God. It's very, it must be very frustrating. I don't know how this feels, but imagine fighting with yourself all your life. And then you get the courage to make the change. And then you get more courage to start talking about it with your family, with your colleagues. And then because you get that courage, which is like recommended and encouraged nowadays, but back then, because of that, she loses her job.
Yeah.
It's it must be super, super frustrating and feeling that it's unfair.
So the other thing that happened is that she started losing her friends.
Her friends?
Yes. They couldn't understand why she was doing this.
So if I don't understand you, I don't befriend you. Great.
Still, she decided to go through with it because she felt that it was either change or die. So in November 1968, she traveled to Mexico and she had a procedure that basically she had finally female genitalia. And that's her after the surgery.
Okay.
But she had more issues. Basically, in the beginning, her wife was supportive of this. And the plan was that Aunt Lynn will remain in the life of the girls and they will know, her children will know her as their aunt.
So they didn't communicate to the children.
I mean, they were very young, so I don't think they could understand. But the idea was she would have the surgery and then she will be Aunt Lynn.
Okay.
But then her wife decided that basically she had some visits from social workers and she decided, okay, if I let Lynn continue visiting, I might lose the children. So
why? In what way can she lose the children?
Because the social services were coming to the house. And
so what?
She was a bad influence, apparently, because she was deciding to transition. Remember, this is the 60s. People, they thought that this was somehow unethical, problematic.
So social workers threatened that if the father continues to appear in the children's life as
a
woman, then they might take the kids away.
Yes, so the mother decided, no, I cannot do this.
Wow.
So the mother decided to ban Lynn from seeing her children.
Okay.
So basically in 1969, she dressed up one last time as a man. She had a visit with her daughters, and then she didn't see the girls again for 14 years.
Wow, until they became adults?
Yes. But for years, she was sending them, gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they were getting Christmas gifts from their father. And so they had this interaction with Robert, but they didn't know who Robert was or why he wasn't there.
Okay, so the mother didn't explain anything to them.
Eventually, she told one of the daughters when she was old enough. And the daughter, of course, she was confused. But when Lynn tried to contact them, they actually reconnected eventually.
Okay.
But for 14 years, they were out of her life.
Oh, man, the abandonment issues for the kids.
I mean, imagine you have a father that seems to love you because he's sending letters, he's sending gifts, but then he's not there.
Yeah.
And you don't know why.
Yeah, it's a strong feeling of abandonment.
So yes, after the operation, she legally changed her surname to Conway. So she took a new name and identity and began life from scratch. So
no family, no job.
Nothing.
No house, starting from scratch.
She's a new person.
The parents? Lynn's parents?
Basically, her father died and she was estranged from her mother.
Okay.
And she was also estranged from her brother at this point.
Mm.
But this is the era where Silicon Valley starts to form. Mm-hmm. Okay. So she started her career from scratch, and she became a contract programmer.
Okay. Contractor.
Yes, basically. She actually had a hard time finding a job. Because when she would go to the interview, she was very skilled, very knowledgeable, and then they will give her a medical questionnaire. And once the employer saw in her medical history that she was trans, they would not offer her a job. And in fact,
so the employers had access to the employee's medical history.
I mean, if you go get a job right now, they will give you a form and they will tell you, okay, give me if there is anything that we should know about you, from your medical history.
Do they need to know if somebody's a trans?
Okay. If I have an employee in my company, I need to know if there is a medical reason to have certain equipment in the office, certain medicines, or to avoid something because somebody is allergic. So they give you a medical questionnaire. I don't know why, but she had to disclose that she's trans.
Okay.
Maybe because she was taking
back then
hormones, I don't know. But she had to disclose this in the medical questionnaire. So when they saw this, they wouldn't offer her the job. And in fact, there was one specific case that they brought in a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist examined her and decided that she was, she was okay. She was articulated, she was comfortable, she was optimistic. So he gave a very positive review. And the company still decided not to offer her a job.
Wow.
Yeah. Still, she managed to find, small, lower level jobs, and she started climbing back up.
Yeah.
So she worked at a company called Memorex, and basically, eventually, as the year went by, in 1973, she joined the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, the PARC. This is where the Windows were invented, the first personal computer.
Oh, wow.
The mouse, everything were invented.
So she was there.
She was there working for PARC, yes. And there in PARC, she met a culture engineering professor named Carver Mead.
Mm-hmm.
So Mead foresaw that increasing density of transistor of silicon wafers, Moore's law, will require a new approach in design, shifting from expensive transistors and cheap wires to cheap transistors and expensive connections.
Mm-hmm.
So they design, along Professor Mead and Lynn together something called very large scale integration, VLSI technology. I don't understand much about chip design, but apparently this was a very pioneer moment in how you can design a chip, because it simplified very much how you conceptualize the processing design, when you create the circuit layout. I don't understand much about this thing, but it's...
Yeah, me neither. Sounds cool, but I don't know what it is.
The point is that the process of designing a chip was much more simpler because of this innovation.
Okay. That Lynn was...
That she designed this technology. That's here in Park.
Okay. So now she embraces her feminine side, and she's a woman.
Yeah. Nobody knows her past.
And she didn't disclose it anywhere.
She doesn't tell people. People know her as a Lynn. Mm-hmm. They don't know her past. They don't know that she was a man before. So basically, she wanted the world to know about this. So she wrote a book with the Professor Mead called Introduction to VLSI System. And it was published in 1979. And it's apparently a very, very well-known book on modern chip design used by universities.
Wow.
So I guess if you are an electrical engineer, you probably had this book.
If you had this book, let us know.
I mean, the cover looks kind of familiar to me. I don't know if it...
No. We didn't have it.
No, we didn't have it, but it looks familiar to me. So I think at some point I saw this book.
It reminds me of It reminds me when the Windows goes down and then you get this window with lots of colors.
Yeah. But it was widely used by universities.
Okay.
So basically, based on this,
it's much easier. Sorry, it's much easier to come out and say your story after you have proven that you're legit.
Yeah.
So Lynn,
at this point, she doesn't tell her story yet.
Yeah, she hasn't. She tried at the beginning, to be honest.
Yes.
Nobody opened the doors for her. Then she stops telling who she was and who she is. And now she wrote a book. The book begins to be used everywhere. And now she feels ready to share the story.
Not yet.
Kind of.
Not yet. So this is the 80s. So basically, there was a point in time that if you were designing, you were in the semiconductor business and you were designing chips, you had to make the design and manufacture it. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was, one-stop shop. But because of what she did, the industry began changing. So we start to getting these kind of companies, the kind of company that design chips like NVIDIA, for example, and then you start getting the companies that manufacture chips like TSMC.
Okay.
So we go from the Intel model where everything is together to this model where there are companies that design chips and there are companies that manufacture chips, and they are decoupled.
All right.
So it's based on her work that this happens. Mm-hmm. So eventually she goes to work for DARPA. DARPA is the Defense Agency Research Program.
Okay.
This is in the early 80s. And then in 1985, she is recruited by the University of Michigan as a professor. So she joins a university and she becomes a professor.
Okay, awesome.
And basically her research at Michigan focused on visual communication and control. And she earned 5 U.S. patents.
All right.
And she retired in 1998 as a professor emerita. So in 1998, she retires as a professor.
So she hasn't, up to that time, she hasn't...
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. There's a song. Anyway, wow. Okay. So she retires, says nothing about who she is.
No,
I mean...
Nobody knows yet.
Okay. She doesn't have to, we're not expecting people to come and present, hey, I'm trans, or hey, I'm straight, hey, I'm gay, or whatever, you know? But it's interesting because it's at a time where it was so hard to make this transition, and you would get lots of rejections. You would be rejected and isolated from the society and in your body as well.
She had 2 careers. Her career as Robert, that ended when she transitioned.
With a family and 2 children.
Yes, and then she starts as Lynn, and it's a new career.
Yeah. It's like 2 different lives.
Yes. One thing she said is that what she noticed is that although she and Professor Mead, they work on this together, he was getting a lot more recognition for the work than she did.
Damn.
So she says that, I was discriminated against first as a trans person, and now I was discriminated against as a woman.
I read an article about this a few years back. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was somebody who made the transition as well. He used to be a man, and then she became a woman, and she described how she started receiving daily discriminations. Like she had micro discriminations moments every day in her life as a woman, and she wrote about this in an article because only when she became a woman, she realized how difficult it is for women to be received and accepted for their opinions and for their legitimacy. And she gave a couple of examples, like, like the simplest example. She used to, when she was a man, he would go into the plane, he would sit on a seat, and if somebody would ask him, "Oh, I think this is my seat," he would say, "No, it's mine," and he wouldn't be questioned. But when she was a woman, and somebody would tell her, "Oh, you're sitting on my seat," and she would say, "No, it's mine," they would question her and be like, "Can you check? I'm definite it's mine," like stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, it's.
So this is a point that the researcher starts researching the earlier, years of her life, the IBM project. And that's when she decides, I'm going to come out and tell my whole story.
Wow.
So
powerful.
She started posting online on her website, Lynn's story. So this thing is still online. I will put it in the description. She wrote like this 6-7 parts, really long essays, telling her whole life story from when she was born, how her childhood, her university years, her IBM years. So she actually wrote her whole story down and told her story from the beginning.
Okay.
And because of this, LA Times wrote a profile on her. And the name Robert Sanders comes from that article. It's not her name. She never told people her name before her transition to protect her children. So Robert Sanders is just a pseudonym that she chose with the journalist to tell her story, so that her male, the part of the year that she was a man, she will have a name.
Wow.
And Sue is not a real name, it's a pseudonym, and the name of the daughters are again pseudonyms.
Okay.
She never told.
And when did she reconnect with her daughters?
So
was it after all this presentation?
So basically, I had it somewhere here. I had it later. Basically, it was when they became adults.
Okay, but so it was before revealing it publicly.
Yeah. It was before revealing it publicly. So basically, after she began speaking up, and telling her story, she coined the term Conway effect to describe how the contribution of women and people of color and other, if they are not men, are overlooked and attributed to men.
Yeah.
And after her retirement, she became a trans activist.
Okay. Do we know how many trans we have in Cyprus? Do we have data like this?
Sure, but I don't think. I guess there are data. I didn't look it up, but I guess it's not that many. Anyway, the trans population is not that big. It's just people that are very biased against, trans people. They make a big deal out of it. But if you actually look at the numbers, they are not that many.
Yeah. Just let them be.
Yes, they don't bother anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as, they are happy, why do you care?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
do you have to make a deal out of it?
Yeah.
A big deal out of it. So in her personal life, she reconnected with her brother Blair in the 1970s. And in 1983, see, this is where I had it, she reconnected with her daughters. And in 1987, she met Charles Rogers. And he was an engineer, and they had similar interests and passions. And so they started a relationship. In the beginning, she didn't tell him that she was trans. Eventually, she did tell him, and he understood. I mean, I guess he was shaken, but he didn't leave her.
Yeah.
So they got married in 2002.
Okay.
And she lived with Charlie and their cats on a farm in Michigan.
Okay.
And that's them together.
Oh, all right. That's a good happy ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
So IBM apologized to her officially for firing her in 2020.
Of course. 2020?
Yes.
Was she alive?
She was alive.
Just about,
yes.
Man.
52 years later.
Yeah.
And she passed away on June 9, 2024 at the age of 86 with Charlie by her side.
Okay. Wow.
And I have one last picture of her. This is a recent picture.
She seems happy, calm.
So that's Lynn.
That's Lynn.
Yes.
I wonder how many other innovation stories were cut short because of people being different and eventually being pushed out from those innovation journeys. Like this is one story.
I mean, in regards to trans women in computer science and in our field, there is one more that is very prominent.
That we know.
Sophie Wilson. Sophie Wilson designed the ARM technology. It's the processor technologies that of the mobile phones, iPhones, any small device, even my Mac now, the M1, they use ARM technology. And she designed this. And in the 80s, when she did this, she was a man. And now she's a woman.
Yeah.
So one is Lynn, the other is Sophie Wilson. I don't know if there are other, trans women in computer science. I mean, I guess there are, younger one, but in terms of, history, this is the two that I know of.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
have you shared the other story?
Sophie Wilson, not yet.
Okay. That's going to be for next year in the Pride Month?
The thing is, I was between Lynn and Sophie is very, very private. We know almost nothing about her personal life. Lynn, after she came out and she said, I'm trans, she shared her whole story. So we know about her struggles, everything that I just told you.
Did she write any biography? Autobiography?
She did. It's online. I told you about it.
You mentioned it.
Yeah.
The 7 pieces, those 7 pieces. But not as a book.
It's like a book, but it's, online. So yes, that's our story. How do you feel?
Sad and glad at the same time. Sad for, understanding how hard. I mean, I'm not understanding it fully because I haven't experienced it, but like hearing the story, like understanding to an extent how difficult it is to live that way, but also glad that she managed to make the change and take the decision, because as you said, it was life or death situation. Like,
so she could have, take her own life.
Yeah.
Or maybe she could end up, being depressed all her life.
Definitely.
And, living as a man, and I don't know, being, if you have to suppress yourself, you become violent, or you end up depressed or an alcoholic. She found a way out, and she had a good life, and she invented things. But yes.
Yeah.
And especially back then, I think it's still very difficult. Okay, it's not easy for trans people. But back then, I think it was like 1,000 times more difficult.
Yeah, it was. And I can imagine somebody listening to us right now might think, okay, why is this story relevant to breaking the 20%? And I think this is a story of acceptance. A story of acceptance that we can all take back with us to our jobs, thinking of the people that we are interacting with. Some of them are weird. Some of them look more feminine than what they should. And I'm double quoting the should. How can we just accept them for who they are and not question their intentions, not question their legitimacy, like just accept.
Yeah. And anyway, when we talk about computer science or our field technology, we say that 20% are women, only 20%. But anybody that is not a white man, it's underrepresented. It doesn't matter if it's, people that are gay, people of color.
Yeah.
Every other group other than white men are, very few.
Yeah. Yeah. And not in the majority. Yeah.
So before I close the episode, let's thank the team. So Maria, thank you for listening.
Oh, Elena, thank you for sharing the story.
And of course, we need to thank Chrysanthi Dimitriou and Sofia Kafkalia for the editing.
Whoop, whoop.
Tasos Konstantinou that does the coordination and the graphics.
Thank you.
Konstantinos Psilidis that, organizes everything.
Gracias.
And the producer of the show, Andreas Filachtou.
Obrigada.
And we have a new team member that is here to help Andreas because Andreas doesn't, cannot do everything by himself. So Eli Joachim, who is an assistant producer.
Ευχαριστούμε.
So thank you, everybody. And this is a production of Black Lemon. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.